All right. And now I'm going to check and see if we are live on, get rid of this, on Facebook. Looking good on Facebook.
All right.
And now we go to YouTube. And we are all green on YouTube. Hello, people. If you're out there, Brian Crosby, can you hear me? Eric, can you hear me? Eric, my brother. Brian, my brother. My audio's good. Hey, guest, could you say hello to the people? See if they can hear you. Guest. Hey, guest. They need to. I need you to speak so they can see if they can hear you. Can you hear? You ready? Can you hear me, T?
I can hear perfectly.
Okay. 1, 2, 3. Can you guys hear Teodrose? Okay, guys. All right. Yes. We got a response from Kevin Ecker. You know, it's a little delay in the internet. Hey, everybody, how you doing? Welcome to the Tim Black at Night show. Oh man, this is going to be a great show. I already feel it in my bones. I got a great guest tonight. He is a writer. He is I would say progressive, maybe independent thinker is probably the best way to put it. I don't know how he classifies himself. I've been checking out his work. You've seen him on the Lee Camp Redacted Tonight show. My friend and yours, Teodrose Fikre. Teodrose Fikre, give it up for him.
I like that. I like the intro. How you doing, Tim? Thanks
What's
for
up,
having me
man?
on the show.
How you doing, my
What's
friend?
going on? All right. What's going on with you?
Man, I'm excellent, brother. You know, we all have our struggles, but we just got to keep fighting, man. How are you today?
I'm doing well. You know, it's the same thing on my end. I when we talked a little bit earlier at the beginning, I was saying that it's good to find a way to laugh as you're fighting the good fight, and to not get undone by gazing into the navel of politics too much. So glad that you're able to smile as you take on these serious topics.
Did you say gazing into the navel of politics?
Right.
Oh, we're going to have fun tonight, man. I'm trying to tell you, man. Man, you got to be able to smile while cleaning up the dog piles of politics.
Man, that's all it is.
Polytricks, man.
You know?
Polytricks. You know, first of all, Teodrose, man, you're a fantastic writer.
Thank you.
And much respect to you. Your literary skills are definitely manifested in your journal, and I retweet a lot of stuff from you. Just great stuff, man. What inspires you to write like you do, my friend?
Man, that's a lot. You know, to be honest, my whole life I've kind of wanted to be, to stand up against injustice and to stand up for the small guy. But for the longest time, it was. In a way, it was kind of hypothetical. You know, I told the last time I was interviewed on Lee Camp's show, I was talking about how in the past, when I was making a pretty good penny working in the defense consulting industry, injustice in a way was very theoretical. And so during the week, I would protest against the Iraq war, for example. I'm sorry, during the weekend, I would protest against the Iraq war. But then during the week, I was partaking in the very same things I was protesting against. And by the way, this is the catch-22 of politics. A lot of us protest against injustices, but we kind of have our hands in it, you know? So we talk about fair trade, but then we end up buying coffee at Starbucks. There's so many ways to unless you're going to get off the grid, which I'm not going to do because I like talking to people, it's almost impossible to be completely clean of the injustices of this world and the system itself. But at some point for me, the theoretical gave way to reality where I went through a lot of hardship for the past 2 years. And then I saw brokenness of the people, the very invisible people that we ignore, the statistics of this capital theft that goes on in America and throughout the world. And so from that perspective, injustice was not just a theory, it became my reality I was living every day. So I kind of woke up to it. And I realized, for me anyways, that unless we're somehow finding a way to speak up for universal justice. And if we feed into the divisiveness, then we're actually furthering the very same injustices that we think that we're fighting against. So, I mean, I catch some flack sometimes, for example, when I say I don't talk about white privilege because, for me, like, for example, Malcolm X went to Mecca and came back. And when he came back, he realized that if he's deploying rhetoric that's divisive, he's actually, he's not necessarily working towards the very same things that he wants to work towards. So at some point, he became about universal justice. So for me, too, in a way, I had my Mecca moment where I saw the broken masses, black, white, left, right, everyone that suffers through the system of economic inequality. So I don't talk about things that feeds into the divisiveness. I think that black and white and Republican and Democrats, most of us are victims of the system. And so we had to find a way to bridge the divides and work together. And so that's what I'm passionate about.
Yeah, I definitely understand that, man, and I applaud you on that effort. I'm not one of those people that like to throw around that term white privilege either, because I think a lot of times people get it wrong. And it has evolved for me over the years, over the last couple of years, where I got a better sense of what really the injustices are. Right. You know what I mean? Yeah. And it's not just, skin color is not the only determiner of what your plight or whatever situations you deal with in life. That's not there's more to it than that. But I do say, man, and I think you know this because like you sent me articles and then I sent you some articles that I was checking out. Man, I just want people to know, and I am going to bring on, there are a couple people I want to share on this channel, like Antonio Moore, who kind of breaks down the more systemic, structural type problems in this country, you know what I mean? And for instance, like a lot of people don't realize, and I have a very diverse audience, and a lot of white people watch my show, and I want them to know, man, that what they see on TV is not real. They think that the black community, and I know I'm going really deep in the water here, but they sometimes think the black community is everybody's doing all right, and they don't know that they're being showed Will Smith, they're being showed, LeBron James. It ain't reality, man. Like I know a lot of black people, and very few of them own their own home. Like very few. Like so, like black middle class is equatable to white poor. And that's pretty much, and black community doesn't have a bunch of middle class and, we're structurally upside down is what I'm saying. And so I didn't mean to go too far on that, but I just want to make sure people understand where I'm coming from on that,
Of course.
It's not, color's not everything, but, it does have a play a part. So
well, if I could add on to that,
please, brother.
Me saying, for example, disavowing the term white privilege, for example, does not mean that I'm disavowing that racism exists. I know very well how it feels to be treated or excluded because I experienced it. So it's not a theory for me. I think you know it very well as well. The thing that I'm saying, though, is that because you hurt or we get hurt does not give us the right, or nor does it actually do anything productive to then push back in a way that becomes exclusive on our own end. So to diminish the struggles that, for example, there's the masses in Tennessee and West Virginia who happen to be I don't even like the word white and black, to be honest, because these are terms that were foisted upon us by outsiders. But the masses who happen to be either black or white in the Appalachians, to say that they don't suffer because we suffer, to me that's counterproductive, because the only way to get to overcome the system of economic injustice as if somehow we found a way to bridge the divide between the struggling masses that are everywhere. So it's not just black and white. Mexicans struggle, Muslims struggle. So this system is global in nature. And so if we don't find a way to bridge the divides, then we actually perpetuate the very same things that we think that we're fighting against. So that's what I'm saying. But that does not mean that racism does not, of course it exists. And I think most of us, you would have to be completely have your head buried in the ground to think that we've somehow erased the racism in the 21st century. It's still here. It's just that we have to find a way to talk about these things in a productive way, not in an unproductive way or counterproductive way. That's what I'm my take on this.
Right, and you know what? And I agree with you. I definitely agree that we should talk in a way that's empowering, not disempowering, a way that unites people, not divides people. But I also believe, Teodrose, that people have to know what we're up against. And they have to know the reality of systemic issues that have existed in this country for decades, that are beneath the surface, that you may not experience. And that's more than just going into a store and a store clerk treating you like follow you around the store. We're talking about schools.
Right.
We're talking about hospital care. We're talking about getting hired. Like these are bigger issues than just how one person treats you. You know what I'm saying? But you say, of course, because you know. And I think some people think, they don't know. They haven't been exposed to the data. And that's all people. Like there are a lot of people, like, I didn't know the data. Like I didn't know, the average black family's worth, $500 if you don't count the car. Like I didn't know these things. Like, how am I going to know that? I'm thinking like, oh no, man, because I was in IT like you were, and I was doing all right. My friends weren't, you know what I'm saying? And I just thought, well, there are other people doing all right. And then I start finding out. So like when you name like Appalachia, and you're absolutely right, man, it's horrendous what's going on in Appalachia and what has been going on there for decades. But like, I heard in, I think it's Alabama, there are black communities that are fighting hookworms.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, and that's,
go to Atlanta, go to Chicago, go to Harlem. You find the masses that are mired in poverty. That shocks the conscience. So, again, for me, I'm not denying these malicious policies. By the way, as an Ethiopian, I'm a first-generation Ethiopian. I was born in Ethiopia.
Okay.
Even though, we're of the same complexion, we don't have the same narrative. Even I can't necessarily comprehend what it feels like to go through generations of cyclical poverty, cyclical racism being aimed towards me and my forefathers, because I don't come from that, right? So even I, as a person that identifies with you, can't necessarily comprehend what it's like to be born a quote unquote African American in that
brother.
context.
Hold up, Teodrose, man. Look, guys, I got to give him a clap for that. Because a lot of people would never say that, Teodrose. I'm trying to tell you, man. I could tell already. We're gonna have a friendship beyond just this show. That because I know you don't live too far from me, man.
No, we're right in the DMV.
That's right, man. Right in the DMV. Shout out to the DMV. Teodrose keeping it all the way real, man. And you know what? Reality is there are some people who grew up where I grew up who I don't relate to because their father was a lawyer, the mother was a doctor. So there's a lot. I don't want to make this whole conversation about that. But I do want to say I'm impressed that you can acknowledge the fact that just because we look the same doesn't mean we have the same experiences, because I don't know how it is in Ethiopia or how your parents raised you, but my parents, the things that they said when I was coming up, bruh, I hope, I'm just keeping it all the way real, Don't even try to do this because you black. You can't do this. Their experiences in segregation, being raised in being born in the 30s or 40s, going through segregation, going through Jim Crow, their parents' experiences like that die for them was cast, and I sort of broke that in a way. But you know what I'm saying? Like some of it's mindset, but this was the reality of the United States, bro. Yeah. And so that's a horrible thing to tell a child, like, you need to do something. It wasn't just the white teachers saying, you hear the stories like a white teacher saying, you could be a good carpenter, you could work with your hands. But it was parents, black parents, telling their kids the same thing, because to them the reality was these are white people dreams. And to this day, my mom, she's 70, and my dad is 70, around the same age, and it's like they can't believe. I have people that's my brother's friends say, Tim, man, I saw you on YouTube. Man, you talking to the white folks, man. Wow, man. Like, to them, they can't believe I talked to Jill Stein. They can't believe I had a Jamu Baraka, an educated brother that's traveled the globe on this show several times. They can't believe, the things I've done, because to them, these are impossibilities. But, bruh, I'm done. Look, let me go to one of your articles. Look, guys, Teodrose, he has this banging article on Barack Obama, and I was on Jesse Lee Peterson's show today, and we had a debate. The name of the article is Barack Obama, the first bank president, not black president. He said bank president. Teodrose, please explain that title.
So, even the first bank is like, there's a bank called the First Bank of America or something like that. So it's just kind of a take on how Obama was a corporatist, dressed up in the guise of a change agent. He really wasn't. So, by the way, let me say this from the outset. Damn. I'm not a typical right-wing zealot. So just because I say, for example, I disavow Democrats does not mean I am an adherent of Republicans. And so I say that to give context to this conversation. A lot of people, we've been trained to think in binaries. So I tell people all the time, just because I say I hate cucumbers does not mean that I love spinach, right? And they say just because I disavow Democrats does not make me a Republican. So I'm not coming at this from the perspective of Sean Hannity and these fools on the right that love to be just the very same divisive things that they think that they're speaking against, and they're doing this as a money maker model, by the way. But
man, look, it's a shame that you had to do that, but you have to do that.
Of course,
because people don't some people don't know, and they make assumptions, like you said, binary. He's either 0 or 1, right?
Because we've been conditioned in that way, right? And there's no joke. Media. There's a reason that both of us are in the media realm, because we understand the power of media. And so the surest way to further injustice is through media, and it's one of the most powerful ways to affect change is also through media. But I say it's kind of so the topic of Obama. Obama became president by the sheer power of media, an unknown quantity, who, by the way, I signed on to big time.
I did
too. Yeah. I went to more, I think it was 15, 16 states in 2008. I was part of Ethiopians for Obama. I started this group called Omegas for Obama. I was with Veterans for Obama. I was with Latinos for, the amount of work that I put in and broke my back to get this man elected, only to realize that this was the biggest deception I've ever seen in my life. It was a marketing campaign, and we all fell for it. And so the article is talking about that, because it took me a long time. It took me, by the way, 6.5 years to finally look back and say, hold on, he's doing the same things that Bush is doing. So, and it's kind of sucks, because in a broader way, this is also an issue of a societal issue. The very same people that were being outraged by Bush's wars, the very same people that were being outraged by Bush tilting the economic playing field towards the wealthiest 1%, all of a sudden were quiet as church mice when Obama was doing the same thing. And by the way, and this is not to endorse what Bush was doing. Bush was malicious. He invaded a nation that never attacked us, and over 500,000 Iraqis died. By any definition, this is a crime against humanity that was committed. But of course, the victors get to have their cake and eat it too, while the defeated end up getting hung. But what Bush did, in a lot of ways, pales in comparison to what Obama did when it comes to economic inequalities. He stepped into the breach of when the economy collapsed in 2008, and instead of helping the middle class, you talk about economic inequalities, you talk about Black wealth disappearing, you talk about the issues that gash at society, that impacts everyone, irrespective of race or politics. It's economic inequalities. Instead of saving and instead of helping the people that were fleeced in 2008, the people that were robbed and stolen from, he helped out the criminals on Wall Street. And for the next 4 or 5 years, using quantitative easing, using bailouts and zero interest policy. By the way, not too many people talk about the zero interest rate policy, or ZIRP as they call it. This is actually even more malicious than quantitative easing, because by lowering interest rates, we as consumers no longer have the ability to put money away and have the money work for us. So now we have to be consumers only, because if you try to save money, you lose money, right? And this was done in order to incentivize people to purchase equity over savings. In other words, he helped out Wall Street at the cost of Main Street. And over $14 trillion combined was given to the very crooks that bled the U.S. economy and by extension, the world economy. And by doing this, he cemented the too big to fail. This is the most malicious economic policy ever. I can't think of a bigger one. Now, and by the way, I'm not saying that Obama was the only one doing this. Bush was doing it. Clinton did this. Reagan did this. Most of America's presidents were all corporatists. If they're not, they end up getting shot like John F. Kennedy. Or people that don't work for the system end up being silenced by the system.
That's right.
But in a way, for me, what hurts the most is the fact that I believed in this man, and this man came in using our pains, the pains of generational racism, the pains of people that have been downtrodden, the pains of the suffering, and he made us believe.
And you know what's something else? You know what's something, not to cut you off, but something else he used that I think is also egregious. He used the reconciliation that others wanted, that they saw, oh man, this is great. We can elect a black president. And if you're a white person, you're like, it had to be there. And there's no shame in admitting it's like, I would like our country to move forward. And this is a way to symbolize that moving forward. And he used that. That. That is some cold-blooded stuff. Teodrose.
You had to laugh. I don't mean to laugh at this because this is truly painful. But somehow you find a way to chuckle at this. By the way, Reverend Wright told us. He warned us. 2008, when they were interviewing him on 60 Minutes, he said, hey, Obama's just a politician. He will say what he has to say. Now, if you would have said a little more too much than that, who knows, right? You have to be careful about the things that you say against powerful people, right?
Right.
But, winking or not, he told us. And, it's.
But you know what, Teodrose? Would anybody had listened? That cognitive dissonance is now you invested all this time. Right. This guy's got to be a liar. He just jealous of Barack. He's just jealous. We can't listen to these guys. This is Jesse Jackson said something similar, right? It wasn't as tactful as Reverend Wright, but he said a little something.
Cornel West. And by the way, he got vilified for saying that. And by the way, this is exactly what they banked on, right? By plopping up the quote-unquote first black president, they made him untouchable. And by extension, they made his policies untouchable. So they used our suffering as a shield, as a human shield, to save corporatism. And this is so, I can't even describe how malicious this is because, he's sitting there taking pictures with a 95-year-old woman with a 5-year-old kid. And so this is a dream seller, selling his dreams. And so for me, when I get more offended by Obama than Bush, I take it most likely is because there's a personal aspect of it as well. Because I feel like I've been not personally like he did this against me, but like I feel some type of a level of being hoodwinked in ways I knew what Bush was about. In a way I knew what Clinton was about. But I believed Obama. And then the hammer gets dropped, so what can you do?
Yeah. I mean, it's one thing for me to come home and some strangers broke into my home. It's another thing to find out a friend did it.
Right.
It's another thing altogether. It hits close to home, man. It's an intimate violation, so to speak. Right. And you said you worked on all these campaigns. I know people I did some phone banking back in 2008, but I know people, at least in the Bernie, like fast forward to Bernie, I know people who lost family members. Family members passed away while they were out campaigning, or they quit their jobs and they lost their homes, or all types of things that occurred. Relationships ended from time being spent on the road.
But here's the thing, though. By the way, I wanted to say this earlier. If you want to know the real from the fraud in a way from me, what I've come to realize is if the system signs off on you, right? So if for example, a billionaire is giving you money, for me, automatically discount them as frauds because they don't let change agents into the master's house. Only overseers you can get put into the master's house. So the rest of us, we're out in the field talking and trying to get people to pay attention to us. the ones who get co-opted automatically get VIP access into the house. And so he got put into the master's house because he was singing the tune that they wanted him to sing.
Well, you know, like in the mafia back in like at least in the movies, I don't know if this is in real life, but you had to do something to get in.
Right.
You know, like initiation.
Right. Yeah.
You go.
Exactly.
Even in the cop flicks, when they if you a narc, they try to make you do the drugs. Like there's got to be something that you do to prove that you are down with whatever enterprise it is, and I guess maybe we're idealistic, or some of us were idealistic that didn't exist. That you could be for the people and still have all the accolades and have all the posh or support or the money backing. And we know that's people want stuff for their money, right?
I think about this even on a personal level, right? Because I know that the more successful you get, for example, as a writer or as a broadcast journalist, and the more people tell you you're doing a good job, you end up somehow forgetting what the original aim was, and the ego kind of takes over. I know this is something I reflect about all the time because, for me, it's easy right now to talk about Wall Street, to talk about the system in a way that is very stark. But I wonder if I have a lot to lose. If Wall Street came knocking on my door, for me, I know the answer. I would like to think, anyways. I would like to think I would say no. But when the devil comes knocking at the door, how many people actually really say no? So maybe in a lot of ways, Obama is not necessarily the problem. The system is the problem. The system that depends on people selling their soul in order to gain power and to get money and to get fame and accolades, that ends up inverting almost everybody to a T that wants to go to, I can't think of one politician in D.C. that went to D.C. and stayed a professional politician and stayed true to the cause. It's almost impossible because the system is corrupt, So part of the solution then is to somehow find a way to decentralize and concentrated power, concentrated wealth, concentrated governance is not good. Absolute power corrupts absolutely. So if we decentralize and empower the localities that we live in, I think that's the only way we could undo this global system of larceny that's going on.
I watched a video, from a broadcaster's point of view, I watched a video a couple years ago of Cenk Uyghur's interview with Joe Rogan on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast. And this was a thing that Joe Rogan posed to Cenk. He said, Cenk, you're getting really popular now. You almost said at the time there were close to 3 million subscribers. You're the biggest thing in liberal media, online media. What about money influence, man? Are you going to keep telling the truth when you get, all this, look at you. And Cenk said something I thought was very prolific. He said, well, there'll come a time when it's going to be somebody else's time. The system will absorb us, and it'll be someone else's time to be the burgeoning progressive outlet. And that's just the way it's like attrition, I guess.
Yeah.
To a certain degree, and I don't know, bro. I mean, I'm a long ways away from that.
Yeah.
I don't know about you.
Beyond you, bro. I'm further beyond you. I think I'll worry about that when I get there, bro.
Yeah. You know what I mean? Like I joke, Teodrose, and I tell people, I said, well, you know what? If millions of dollars knocked on my door tomorrow, I'd take it. But then I'd fund H.A. Goodman or I'd fund Teodrose Fikre.
Right.
That's what I do, to keep them from having to do. Somebody's got to take some money though, in order to fund these people, and then and then you keep somebody honest. Or either we all just do a Bernie, $27 at a time.
By the way, if I, last year, so when I first, here I go again, at the risk of plugging my book. Now, I wrote a book last year, right? So the reason I laugh about this is because I used to bang at people that I used to go on TV shows and then plug their book. I'm like, there we go again, plugging books. And now I'm plugging books. No, but there's a reason why I'm saying this because, for me, when I wrote my first book last year, I had such a problem monetizing it that I was, in the midst of being homeless at that time, I was giving the books away. because I did not want it. I found something very unpure about selling or monetizing. But then I realized that at certain points, you know what? You try to be an idealist in this world, you will remain homeless. You know what I'm saying? So the world bends at some point, as long as you don't break your principles. If you stay true to your cause, you can't. It's almost impossible to say, "Well, I'm not going to partake in this." We have to eat in this world, and so I would like to think that people, as long as they stay focused on what they're really about, at some point, for me selling a book or doing for other people that might be doing commercials or whatever they're doing to earn a keep, that is not necessarily bastardizing the aspirations that they have. It's when you make chasing money your sole purpose in life. You know, by the way, to link it back to Obama, one of the last videos that I saw of his was the White House Correspondents' Dinner, and he made a joke where he said, "Oh, this joke, if you don't laugh at it, I'm going to tell the same jokes at a Goldman Sachs dinner, and I'm going to get paid." You know, people laughed. Of course, everyone in the Correspondents' Dinner. But for me, I saw that as equally malicious to when George Bush made the joke about the weapons of mass destruction in 2006, I think it was. You know, people tell you who they are through jokes, or people tell you who they are and when they're not necessarily thinking about it. And so he told us. He was telling us the whole time. So for me, the difference between Obama and what we're doing, we're not out for the sole purpose of making money. We're doing I'm pretty sure, for me, for example, as a writer, the easiest way to make money, the easiest way to become famous is to actually do what a lot of people on the left and the right are doing, right? They stick to their lanes. They feed into the left-right divide or the black-white divide. They present one side as evil, the other side as good, and then that's what they do. That's their stick. They never talk about the wider system of inequities. They talk about this in a very partisan or identity-based ways. You do that, the system will embrace you. Absolutely. Malcolm X, right? Malcolm X, when he was talking that white devil language or rhetoric, the system loved him because he was doing the job for the system. So Cambridge was inviting him. Harvard was inviting him. He was beloved by the same elites that he was speaking against. He was doing their job. When he came back, he said, hold on. No, the system, the issues here is not necessarily black and white. It's the system itself. And I'm for any man who is for justice. And he started talking about universal justice. You know what happened to him shortly after that?
We know.
They killed him.
Absolutely.
You know, Malcolm X too. Martin Luther King too. As long as he was talking about just black issues and stuck to his lanes, he was fine. The minute that he went against the Vietnam War and started speaking out for universal justice, bang. So I think for us, for people that want to affect change, we had to find a way to be uniting as we're talking about our pains. You know, I'm not saying don't talk about your pains. For example, my native country, Ethiopia, Italians in the 1930s and then 1890s before that, you know, invaded us twice and brutalized. A mini genocide, if not a Holocaust, was committed against Ethiopia in the 1930s by Mussolini. Now, I could talk about these things. I'm not saying I'm going to just keep quiet for the sake of being, you know, niceties and for the sake of getting along and for the sake of kumbaya. But as I talk about these things, I refuse to blame every Italian out there that every Italian did not do this. It was Mussolini that did this, and it was a bunch of fascists that did this. So for me, when I say, you know, don't feed into the divisiveness, I'm not saying don't talk about your pains, but talk about your pains in a way where people can understand what you're going through without making other people feel like they're going through that they're the evil ones, because they suffer too. No?
That's one of the things that truly this perplexes me, is that there's some very powerful voices and some folks out there like Vec Carnell, Arami, the funky academic. I don't want to get his name all wrong. There's some great, voices out there, and I've always wondered, like, wow, man, if you're just talking to black folks and not talking to white folks, and if you say white folks hold the money and white folks are the dominant, then how are we gonna get any changes done? Like, look, man, let me work with you because I have an audience that may have some, access that your audience doesn't have. We need to work together. But like, that's presumptuous of me, man. They think they got it figured out. They got a game plan. More educated than me. They probably have a better plan than I don't want to assume. But that is something that has troubled me on Real Talk, Teodrose, is that I see these folks who talk to only black audiences, and I say, wow, like, how are we gonna fix it if we know that we don't control power? Like, how do you? So I get I do see the logic behind, not just from a moral standpoint of, hey, let's not be divisive, let's work together, but also, how do you get shit done? If we don't work with the people who also have, like, I don't have any cousins that that are in the government, like, or that are in these positions. So I need to help educate people who might be teaching at schools, who might be nurses, doctors, lawyers. These are the people I need to open their minds up to. So, if that makes any sense, bro.
No, it does. And also, like, for me, the issues are twofold, right? Of course, you talk about the externals and the issues that, gash at our community. But then I think the bigger bridge, the issue that we had to face is also internal, right? And so, like, let me give you an example. The reason that I sunk into I talk about the fact that I was homeless for a while, and then I was able to rise out of it, as opposed to being kneecapped and sentenced to a life of hardship and indigence, is because I was not necessarily institutionalized by it, right? So because I grew up in a foundation and a family environment where I know struggle, but how to rise out of it, I was not necessarily kneecapped by it. If you become institutionalized, I've seen homeless people that are institutionalized by homelessness, right? That's not to say that they choose to be homeless. It's just, as the system kneecaps them, they also give up hope. So imagine if this happens on one lifetime, what could happen over successive generations where you grow up in generational poverty, generational apathy, all these things so inward we suffer, that we inside our hearts and our souls, there's a suffering as well. There's a healing process. I was talking to my sister a while back ago, and I always ask people questions. And so when she had a baby, I asked her, how long did it take you to heal? And she said 9 months. And I was like, what? So it took just as long to heal from birthing as it does for the birthing process, right? So 9 months to give life to a baby, 9 months to heal from giving life, right? So then imagine 400 years, 600 years, 800 years of repression, of systematic oppression, of injustices, endless amounts of state-sponsored terrorism against Black folks. And I say quote unquote because, like I told you, these labels for me become very hard because I know where they come from. But imagine this level of malicious and systematic abuse. Then in order for us to heal, it will take twice as, just as long to come out of it as it did to go into it. And because there's still the birthing process is still going on, and we have not necessarily gotten to the point where we say, okay, we've arrived, but we're still going through the process of redemption. Once we get to redemption, it's going to take another 800 years to get out of it, So inside, now Bob Marley said that you had to free yourself from mental slavery. True enough, there are shackles at the feet, but then the shackles inside the mind are even harder. That's the hardest step to get to. So when I say this within the context, for example, of our inability to work with each other. We don't have to. Restitution, for example, will go by the wayside if we work with each other. If we reinvest in our community, the amount of money and wealth that we could generate if we reinvest in our community, if we keep the money in our communities. And I'm not saying this from a point of judgment. When you're stuck in poverty, you're not thinking about 10 years from now. You think about the next day and how to survive to the next day. But somehow, if we could affect change on that level, to make it hip to help each other out, to make it hip to shop at somebody that owns a store in your community versus going to Walmart, these things could have a tremendous impact in ways that no politician will be able to do for us, in ways that no amount of protest will be able to do for us. We hold the keys more than anybody else. So stop begging for other people to give us the keys. We have the keys already, you know? So as we work towards a better day, let us also work within our hearts to cleanse the issues that have kneecapped us and to somehow find a spirit of togetherness and cooperation so that we could affect change within ourselves. There is no Moses coming for us. We could do it on our own, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, I would just say that we should not underestimate the power of politics.
Yeah, true.
And the reason why I say, because the New Deal is what created a middle class in this country. Like, it didn't exist in America. It was fading away. This was after the Great Depression. If it weren't for, FDR enacting these changes to society, there wouldn't be a white middle class. And that was how it happened. Because, think about labor laws. Like, they were kids in the mines. They didn't care. It was capital, capital, capital. So politics, is what created the opportunity for us to unionize in order for us to have an 8-hour workday. A 40-hour week. All these things that created this society were done via policy. Yeah, so, but I do agree that there is a responsibility that we have to take in our everyday lives, because no policy is going to make you, get up every morning to do what you need to do, to write that article, for me to do my broadcast. Ain't nobody making me broadcast, man. Like, I have to do this, and I have to not have to turn off the negative voices and distance myself from people who ain't got nothing better to do but except watch football and and hang out. This is reality. But there's a component to it that like all the working in the world ain't gonna fix Flint.
Right.
It ain't gonna fix Louisiana water, man. Like all of the great thoughts, and so I think both of us together,
I agree.
Together, we got the answer there.
By the way, I used to say that if justice is an ocean, there's many rivers to it. So nobody has the key. Like, so I have my lane, not necessarily a lane. I have my path, and that path entails. I talk about politics for a reason, right? So it's not like I'm saying, hey, bury your head into the sand and don't pay attention to what goes on in DC. No, pay attention. It's just that I'm not one to endorse neither party. I refuse. I've gone down that lane. I'm not going to go back down that lane. But all that being said, for other folks that are pursuing their river to the ocean of justice, as long as the ocean is the same, as long as we arrive at a place where we're looking for equality, for the ability for people to be able to pursue their dreams unencumbered by oppression or unencumbered by exclusion, and if the rights of all is able to be shared by all, then if that's the goal, how we get there, there's 10,000 ways to get there. If we, as long as we work together on that, and as opposed to working against each other, then I think it's in the best interest for each of us to pursue our own individual endeavors in that way. There's no harm in that. You don't have to do it my way. I don't have to do it your way.
That's right. But we had these great conversations. We share this information, and we attract those people who are looking for solutions and ideas, man. Yeah. I think it's a beautiful thing. I even think it's even more beneficial for us to have a slightly different take on certain things, because double the audience.
Right. Yep.
Double the reach. You know what I mean?
By the way, we talked about this slightly for a minute, but both of us are independent journalists. By the way, it took me a while to finally say I'm actually a journalist, because I saw that as some type of a title. Journalist just means you're a writer and you're speaking up for. So if you choose to be a journalist, so in that way, we all, anyone that journals for the betterment is a journalist in my book. It doesn't have to be some type of an insider club or only X or only this. Nah, it's anyone that standing up for justice for me is a journalist. But in that way, if we're people that decide to pursue journalism and as a profession, all of us could do more by working with each other in this way. I have a network of people. Granted, it's not as big as yours, anywhere close to yours. But I have a network and a very a niche audience, and you have an audience that's more open than mine. But we both benefit, because you get introduced to my audience, and I get introduced to your audience. And so imagine if there's 10 people doing this, and they're all somehow, I'm not saying all the time, but they form some type of a synergy. This is how independent journalism could take on corporate journalism. And if you really, one of the main sources of injustice is this corporate journalism, people like Jeff Bezos and people like, Zuckerberg and Rupert Murdoch, that buy up these journalistic outposts and then turn them into a corporate mouthpiece. Right. And these corporate journalists do not write to justice. They write to their partisan issues because they know that as long, again, it goes back to people sticking in their lanes in order to attract eyeballs, in order to enrage one side against the other. And it's nothing but divide and conquer. So corporate journalism is nothing but a means to divide and conquer the masses and turn us against each other. Yeah. And that's what they do. MSNBC, Fox News, same model, different audiences. Washington Post, Wall Street Journal, same model, different audiences. And they're doing this in a very brilliant way, where 6 people own 90% plus of the information that we consume. The only way people like us could even have a shot of retaining the 10% market share that we have collectively is if we work together. Which, by the way, you talked about this earlier, the FCC is currently in the process of doing away with net neutrality. This is a most vicious and insidious form of censorship. This is censorship because they're trying to make it almost impossible for people like us to reach an audience. So not only do they have 90% market share, which is by every definition a monopoly, now they want to get 100%. 6 people want to control 100% of the information that we control. Information is a weapon of mass destruction when it's owned by 6 people.
Yeah, absolutely.
So for them to go from 90% to wanting a total control, not even Joseph Stalin had this level of control. That's what they want. That's exactly. So that we have to wake up to it, and if we don't, Flint, Michigan, notice it's not in the news anymore. The Dakota Access Pipeline. What other information is out there that we're not listening to? And by the way, the information that is breaking, that when it finally breaks to the corporate media, is not because of corporate media. It's because people like us are actually saying, hey, pay attention to this. And we break through, and then all of a sudden, it lasts with a few news cycles, and then it dies away. So if we go away, then it becomes a threat to society as a whole.
It does. It does. It's very well put, my brother. Very well put. We were tweeting a lot about it. It was trending on Twitter because we were pushing it, all of us out there. And net neutrality is a very scary thing. I mean, if you imagine, someone basically at the levers controlling the speed from which you can download. So you could still get to another search engine, but what if that search engine was 3 times slower than the one they want you to use?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which would you use? Like it would be like, well, I need to get this information as quickly as possible. I'm going to use this, and from that search engine, you get different news. Right. The results come back a different way, and we know it. I think we did tests during the election. People were doing searches on one provider and another, and coming up with different results for the same search terms. So I don't want to go too far into that. But we know what that was about.
It's crazy. And by the way, so now the social media companies are already doing this. Yeah. They're using algorithms to suppress independent voices. They're using libelous terms like fake news. Fake news, by the way, is when you speak truth, that becomes fake news. If you're speaking a bullshit line, that becomes real news. But let somebody say the emperor has no clothes, that's fake news. So they use pejoratives like fake news to diminish people like us. Then they use algorithms to suppress our articles and our from showing up on their newsfeed. So the social media companies are doing this, and now the providers are going to be doing this as well. So they're between them, they're trying to bracket out independent voices. This is effectively they're putting a shredder to the U.S. Constitution as far as I'm concerned, and it's dangerous times when we start doing this.
It is, and we knew it was coming with the whole Russia scare.
Yeah.
That it was inevitable. There was a reason for it, and it's now we need to protect you from this boogeyman.
Big brother,
this boogeyman is giving you this bad information that's bad for you.
Right.
This the black identity, was it radical black, or was it BIE, black identity extremist? That's what it's called. A classification for black people who realize, something ain't right. So it's like that's an extremist. The idea that no one cared about Tamir Rice if it wasn't for Russia buying Facebook ads that talked about Tamir Rice as if we weren't already talking about it. These are it's all BS, man. As if whatever's going on. I just find it. Even to Trump talking about the NFL boycott. Just even bringing up Marshawn Lynch or bringing up these people taking the knee. I look at it and say, why are there so many people who call themselves like progressive or woke? Like they're not seeing that this is all BS. Like, why would a president care about a player on a team?
Right.
If he stands and sits, why do you care? We got all these problems in this country.
Right.
You don't want to, and then I'm like, you can't call this guy out for that. Like, call him out.
We're a society that has become a talk show society. Like, not talk show, a reality show, right? So this is how the system plays us. As long as we're talking, oh my God, can you believe what happened last night with such and such, right? We're a nation of gossipers. As you gossip, news is flying by you all the time because it prevents you from looking at, this is, by the way, this is what tyrants have done in every other country. Hitler rose to power by creating a boogeyman of certain people that are doing X, and then you attack them, socialists, Jews, outsiders, people that were, except the problem is, what starts out on the fringe ends up creeping until it becomes everyone. That's what that poem by, I think his name is Nomos, where he said, first they came for the socialists, I didn't say anything. Then they came for the Jews, I didn't say anything. Then they came for the laborers, I didn't say anything. Finally, they came for me, and nobody was around to stand up for me. And so it's the same thing. You create a boogeyman on the outside, bogeyman, whatever it's called. And then they become the straw man, and then eventually the freedoms are taken away slowly until it becomes everybody. So that's what they did to Muslims, for example. Muslims in 2003 were the boogeyman. And using them as the pretext, they implemented a traitorous act. I call it's a treason act. It's not a Patriot Act. A treason act that allowed our government to spy on this broadcast, by the way, is somehow going to be stored in some vault somewhere. Our own government is spying on us. And by the way, when people say our government is spying on us, right? It's not like they're listening to every conversation, right? There's 300 million people. Every conversation not being listened to in real time. The problem becomes all this data is being stored, and then they could look up keywords or various ways to filter information to identify who's talking about this, who's a threat today, right? Yeah. So then either proactively or retroactively, any one of us could be made into some type of a suspect depending on what we're talking about. This is the most amazing. So the powers of the CIA, the powers of the NSA have been unleashed against American citizens, which was expressly forbidden up until the Patriot Act got you. And this is what politics prevents us from seeing. It prevents us from seeing this. And so the more we talk about Trump, the idiot at the White House, the more that we're not realizing the bureaucrats behind the scenes are completely eradicating the Bill of Rights, completely fleecing us to the tunes of trillions of dollars. And meanwhile, we're talking about how Trump spells Korefi. Just not as outrageous. In a way, I forgot who said it. Matisse, I think it is, said people get the government they deserve.
Yes.
Maybe this is the government we deserve after all.
And speaking specifically about Trump, I don't want to paint him as he's the inventor of this. Like in fact, Donald Trump's been playing the media for 40 years.
Right. Yeah.
He knows like P.G. Barnum was like an excellent showman. He knew how to, the circus guy, and he knew how to, create a spectacle and get attention and all these things. And that's what, imagine the fact that we all know who Trump is. He's just a guy with some money. There are a lot of guys in America with money. Right. Like he's not the richest American. Why do we know his name? Because Trump knows how to work the media.
Of course. Yeah.
That's what that is.
If you ever see, I want to say it was Meet Joe Black, right? Where this guy comes in and he pretends
Anthony Hopkins.
Yeah. And so this
Brad Pitt.
Yes. And so he puts on a persona and fits in whatever character that he needs to fit into until Anthony Hopkins says, "Who the hell are you?" Finally, after he's in his house, after he takes his daughter, Anthony Hopkins says, "Who the hell are you?" That's what Trump is. He's the Joe Black of That's amazing. This is the same guy that was a liberal in New York is now all of a sudden a conservative. The same guy that has weird ideations about his daughter has been accepted by the conservative family values as the savior. But I love what's happening now. They say, the Republicans would rather have a child molester in Roy Moore than have a Democrat, and the same thing holds true with the Democrats, because they'd rather have Charlie Rose than a Republican or Al Franken. They're equating Al Franken to Roy Moore. It's a little stretch, but you get my point. It's both two sides of the same coin. It is. So this is the problem, though, right? This is what goes back to what the problem with Obama, for example, is, right? We are so wedded to ideology and dogma that we're willing to do somersaults and flip-flop back and forth between issues in order to stay true to the political personalities that we're attaching ourselves to, right? Or to the political labels that we attach ourselves to. So the same, like I said, the same people that were outraged about Bush's Abu Ghraib and the water torture that was going on in Guantanamo were okay with Obama as he murdered extra-legally people that were accused of being terrorists. I say the word murder very intentionally. When a government is able to just assassinate people without habeas corpus, without hearings, and extra-legally, this is against the Geneva Conventions. So when it's Bush torturing people, it's an outrage. But yet, when Obama is assassinating people, they say, they were just terrorists anyways, right? And the Republicans do the same thing. The same people that were up in arms against Benghazi, remember what happened in Nigeria not too long ago?
Right.
Well, nothing. The same people that were pissed off about Obama's imperial presidency, Trump comes in, he's been basically signing one executive order after the other, the same thing that Obama was doing. All of a sudden, Republicans are clapping their hands. So this is a cult of personality. We are so wedded to political. It's like we might as well be a country following what's the guy that Charles Mason. We're Charles Masonites.
Wow!
In politics,
The Manson family.
Yeah. It's just.
God, that's something. That's something. That's scary. That's a scary thought, man. I hope we got to come back from that brink of destruction with that, man. That's those zombies.
I don't want to sound like it sounds hyperbolic to say this, right? Except, wars are started because we follow politicians into wars. So if we get outraged by the people that followed Mason and kill people, right? This is not, by the way, I'm not saying this to vilify people that serve in the military. Like I said, I've met a lot of people that serve in the military honorably, and a lot of people that I look up to as heroes are veterans. So when I say this, I'm not saying this to cast any aspersions towards veterans. But the thing is, our countries are led into wars by politicians the same way that Mason led people to kill people. So we think we're defending democracy. No, we're actually stealing the wealth of nations. We think we're standing up for freedom. No, we're occupying countries. So this is all for the sake of capital larceny. So the same way that we're being destroyed and the middle class is being destroyed in America, the same system is destroying the lives of billions throughout the world and burying people into systematic hopelessness, as it is in the Appalachians, as it is in Chicago, as it is in Atlanta, and as it is right here in the Chocolate City. So if we don't wake up to it, get ready. We get more and more of it. And by the way, what happened in 2008 was child's play. The next economic recession that's going to come, which it comes, there's going to be another one.
Yeah.
If you look back since 1929, every 8 to 10 years, there has been a cyclical recession. Now, the way that the Federal Reserve has usually pulled out the country from recessions in the past is by reverting to Keynesian economics. They lower interest rates, and then they do Keynesian policies like stimulus, for example. Obama did both in 2008. The problem is they can't lower the rates anymore. We're pretty much at zero, and there's no will to spend trillions more to stimulate the economy. So this economy is at 22,000 right now. I think 22,000 and change. And Fox News is raving about this every day. MSNBC, CNN. The problem is when this economy dips a little bit, it becomes a free-falling knife. There's nothing that's going to catch it. So as we get distracted by all the idiocy, the next recession that comes, the Great Recession of 2008, would look like child's play. So, but again, like I said at the outset of this conversation, can't gaze into the navel of politics too long because it will depress you. But we really should start thinking about these things because, we've been warned for a long time. I'm not the first person saying this. Mm-hmm. And if we don't get our act together and find a way to unite somehow, we're going to find equality. It's going to be a soup kitchens.
Wow. This is no atheists and foxholes. My man, Teodrose Fikre, man. Listen, brother, this has been a great conversation, man. We could probably do this all night, but we can't. What's a way that people can follow you and get more information? Sure.
So I write almost on a daily basis at the Guion Journal. That's GHION, GuionJournal.com. You can follow me on Twitter at Teodrose Fikre, TEODROSE FIKRE. And Facebook as well, and Guion Journal on Twitter as well. So you can reach me anytime, and also you can see me on Tim's Twitter feeds once in a while as well, because he's always been a great supporter. So I appreciate you, Tim.
Man, it's just the work ethic you got, man. And like I said, man, the proof is in the writing. My folks, thank you so much. Thank you, Teodrose, for being here, man. Everyone, go to Guion Journal. That's the Guion Journal, GHION Journal, United Spell Journal. Go there. Also, I'm going to link it up in the link description, guys. Fantastic conversation, all real, all free-flowing. We already knew it was going to be like this, man. I appreciate you, man, Teodrose.
And by the way, this is you gave me an invite last time, and life intervened and couldn't make it last time. But it just shows your gracefulness that you actually arranged another meeting. So I appreciate you. I apologize for the people that tuned in last time and they couldn't. They didn't find me on here, and I appreciate that you extended another offer. So I appreciate that, and look forward to another one at some point in the near future.
No doubt, man. Thank you, man. I appreciate it. Look, guys, this is my man, Teo. Just give it up for him. All right? Great show. Tomorrow is Wednesday. I don't know if I'm going to broadcast tomorrow, but I will do some videos, put some stuff out, and I will see you soon. Email me with questions at tim@timblackTV.com. Go to timblackTV.com. This show is brought to you by viewers like you on patreon.com, Tim's Take Live. We're not funded by the DNC. We ain't funded by the GOP. We ain't funded by RT. Just you. So check me out later, and I'll see you on the next one.
Peace.
Tim Black. That's it, man. Great show, my friend. Great show. Natural.
Tim Black. Yes, sir.
We are done.
True. Funny. Tim Black. I am TimBlack.com. Tim Black.
That's it, y'all. Don't let nobody take your cornbread. Oh, and they trying to take it, too. I swear to God.